So you know what myofascial release is, but how do you do it? And it's really simple. Once you learn the basic principles on how to do myofascial release, you can do it on accident. So the first principle is always work from superficial to deep. And what I mean is you want to start with releasing the skin layer from the top tissue layer, then moving into the superficial muscles before you get anywhere near those deeper muscles and tissues. As a therapist, you may not get to the deep tissues on the first myofascial treatment with a patient, and that's okay. And a lot of the pain and restrictions actually come from the more superficial muscles and tissues, and there's really no need to go into the deep tissue in most cases. There are exceptions to that rule. Patients, this is also very important for you to know. If you do research on what muscles might be hurting you, and let's say you come across the psoas muscle, which causes a lot of low back pain, you cannot get to the psoas muscle on the first treatment unless you've already had intensive myofascial release, because the best way to get to that psoas muscle is deep underneath the abdominal organs and tissue. And so that is not something that you want a therapist going right into without first releasing all of that tissue on top, because you could end up tearing delicate abdominal muscles trying to get to the psoas. The second principle that you need to know is utilizing light pressure. You can actually do more healing on yourself or on a patient just using resting pressure and your intent than digging and going with hard pressure into tissue. So let me tell you a story of a patient that is one of my favorite stories because it was such an impact on her and me, just utilizing the lightest of pressure for myofascial release. So this was an older woman who came to me. She could not walk without utilizing a cane and also using the arm of her caregiver. When she got on my table, she was in such pain, and this was her hip, that I literally could not do anything more than just set my hand lightly on her tissue. If I went any deeper, she would be screaming in pain. And this woman had been experiencing this pain for years. She'd gotten multiple cortisone shots, been to multiple doctors, physical therapy, anything you can think of. And she came to me out of desperation. And because she knew that I did trigger point therapy, and someone told her that maybe trigger point therapy would help her. So we did myofascial release instead. All I could do for that first session was just rest my hands on her tissue and do gentle, slow release. I was able to get a little bit more pressure as the massage went on, but literally I could not do more than like maybe a pound or two of pressure on her tissue. I was like, okay, hopefully she gets a little bit of pain reduction, and so that way she will come back to me so I can do more treatment because I know I can help this woman. But I wasn't sure I did anything just being able to rest my hands on her like that. She came back to me a few days later with the biggest smile on her face, no cane, no caregiver, and in fact, she had to show me how much pain relief she felt by dancing a little jig. And I was like, whoa, 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 this is like your first few days without pain. Take it easy, don't ruin what we just did. But being able to impact somebody that much with the lightest pressure is nothing short of a miracle. And I share this story with you just so you know that you do not have to push hard in a treatment in order to solve pain. In fact, there are parts of the body that prefer very, very light myofascial release and just that resting pressure. And the two main areas of the body that is the case is the side of the neck, and that is because you have all of the nerve bundles that control the arms coming right out from the side here and through the muscles. And my reasoning for why the body prefers light pressure there is that because of that very important nerve bundle, the body automatically will protect itself by tightening up if you use too much pressure because it wants to protect those nerves, and it does this without conscious thought. And then the second area that this happens is also the glutes. And the reason I feel that the glutes prefer light pressure is the same thing as the neck. You have major nerve bundles coming out through the glutes that power the legs, and the body will unconsciously protect itself if you use too much pressure in the glutes. And so you won't get very far in these areas if you use too much pressure. Principle number 3, use very slow strokes. So these are strokes so slow, it's like watching a turtle cross the street. or like watching paint dry. It's that slow. So basically, you're gonna go as fast as the body lets you. In areas that you have never released before and have never had myofascial release, you're actually gonna be able to feel the body resist you if you go too fast. And so those first couple of times, the first couple of passes, you're gonna have to go very, very slow as you feel the tissue giving. Once you've released an area, you'll be able to use a little bit of a faster stroke. But once your client or you as a patient experiences these slow rhythmic strokes, you won't want to go back to any sort of faster stroke massage because it is very relaxing, and I have patients falling asleep all the time on the table because it's almost like putting you in a trance. Those strokes are so slow. Also, slow strokes means less strokes. You can do more healing to the body with one very slow stroke than you can with multiple fast strokes. So, slow strokes and also less strokes. Principle number 4 is the direction of force of your strokes. So most of the myofascial release strokes are going to be parallel to the tissue. Very rarely, unless you're doing something like trigger point therapy or you have to use a specific angle to get into deeper tissue, will you ever use perpendicular force to get into tissues using myofascial release. And in fact, perpendicular force would be considered that deep tissue tearing myofascial release. So the strokes are going to be mostly parallel or at a 45-degree angle. So you're going to be working mostly in the 0 to 45-degree angle range as you're doing myofascial release. And the 5th principle is you need to have skin on skin. Myofascial release requires tactile feedback into your finger sensor receptors. So whether you're doing this on yourself or you're a therapist doing this to a patient, you need to be able to feel with your own fingers and your own skin what is happening beneath their skin layers. And when you have cloth or clothing as a barrier in between, it is nearly impossible to feel the sensations that you need to feel if you're doing proper myofascial release. And so any area that you're going to be working on is going to need to be undraped. And you just need to make sure you have good communication with your client as to why you need to work skin on skin, especially in sensitive areas that people might be hesitant, such as the glutes. There are ways to work in the abdomen and in the groin area when necessary, working underneath draping, but also making sure that they're comfortable and that you're not approaching any areas that are both sensitive and also illegal to touch. So it's very important that you always have skin-on-skin contact when you're doing true myofascial release. So, if you just follow these 5 principles of myofascial release, you can accidentally do it, either as doing self-care, solving your own pain, or as a massage therapist, or if you tell your therapist that you would like them to do myofascial release and they have no clue, just give them this feedback. Use the lightest pressure that you can. Please, no more than light to medium pressure. And then give them feedback because pressure is relative. So medium pressure for me is different than somebody else's definition of medium pressure. So basically, if it's hurting and you can feel them using a lot of force, they're using too much pressure, and just say, can you please lighten up? Okay, tell them to use very, very, very slow strokes. Say, I'm gonna be the most boring patient you've ever had. Basically, do it as slow as a turtle. And then that therapist will have accidentally done myofascial release on you, and you will feel great pain relief without them having to know anything more than that. So the next videos that we're gonna go through are actual demonstration videos on how to do myofascial release on yourself or for therapists doing myofascial release on patients.